think Jen and I were talking about this as well before this chat. They're saying, like, you think about the number of total men in mountain biking, and there'll be a huge percentage that don't race and they're just doing it for fun. And then you look at the amount of women racing, and it's growing, but it's a smaller number, and that there'll be a huge percentage that just want to have fun, and that's why it's just the general numbers. That's why there's a smaller amount racing. But most people, the majority of people that are into mountain biking, just love mountain biking.
Yeah.
They just love getting.
Hello, my name is Morgan and welcome back to the Content Collective's Derailed podcast. This week we have a very special edition of the podcast for you. We wanted to do something for International Women's Day, and we thought what better way to do that than to get a group of incredible women who are involved in the sport together to talk about issues surrounding women in sport and women in mountain biking. A friend of the Content Collective, Jen Price, really helped us put this episode together. She put a lot of work in, she brought everyone together, and we couldn't have done it without her. Thank you so much to Jen. She also co-hosts this episode with me. We also have on this episode Riddell, who is coach and owner of Riddell, Anila McKenna, who is a guide and co-owner of GoWhere Scotland, as well as co-founder of the FNY Collective, Fanny Collective, which is a group aimed at encouraging more women into the sport through organising women-only events and rides. We have Jules MacLean, who is a World Cup suspension mechanic for Fox. We have Mikayla Parton, who we had on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, a World Cup downhill athlete. And we have Katy Winton, who is one of the best EWS athletes in the world. It was a really interesting and enlightening podcast. I thoroughly enjoyed listening to everyone. I learned a lot. And it was great, not just to talk to a group of women about issues in sport as far as women are concerned. It was also just great to have such a diverse mix of people together to talk about mountain biking. We had different ages, different backgrounds. Everyone got into the sport at different times. The difference between racers and non-racers. It was just a fascinating episode to talk about all these issues with. I think you're going to really enjoy it. If you do, please like, comment, and subscribe. Otherwise, I really hope you enjoy this special edition of the Derailed podcast for International Women's Day. And we're going to jump right into my conversation with all these incredible women. Hope you enjoy. Okay. Thank you everyone so much for being part of this special edition podcast for International Women's Day. I am just going to be assistant host today. I'm not going to be probably saying too much, but I've got maybe one or two questions, but pretty much just going to be assistant host to Jen. So Jen, do you mind doing some introductions?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll start with myself. So I'm Jen, obviously. I'm pretty much repping the regular mountain biker, but very much with a passion for encouraging women, or just everybody, but women in particular, into mountain biking. I've been involved in a few clubs and groups and female race events and things like that. So really passionate about, getting more people into mountain biking. I've done some racing. I've dabbled in the odd race here and there, and the odd Scottish Enduro series, which is actually where I met Chris Hutch. And then since then, just over the years, we've just sort of kept in touch. And we were actually chatting just a few weeks ago. He was telling me all about the Contour Collective and what you're all about, which just resonated with me so much. And we were just, it started off me saying that I'll maybe write a wee blog, link that into International Women's Day and, encouraging women into mountain biking. And it seems to have escalated into this kind of amazing podcast with this amazing group of women. So I'm super, super stoked, totally buzzing to have everybody here together. So I'm also, dabbling with some ideas of my own. I'm sort of looking to potentially link mountain biking and well-being sort of in the future. And I think, just to have women that are already working in the industry come together, I just think is a great opportunity to shine the light on the great things that are already happening and sort of using International Women's Day as that perfect sort of opportunity to do that. So I'm just super, super stoked to have you all here. I'm so chuffed. So yes, I'm going to do a kind of like a round of introductions. If you just want want to each person, I'll just sort of like, and then just say hey, or like, because we so first up we've got, well, in no particular order actually, but I just have an order that I've planned, we've got Aneela McKenna. So she is one of the best mountain bike guides in Scotland and just an all-round awesome human. So thanks, Aneela, for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Thanks.
Awesome.
It's great with this amazing crew.
Yeah, it's ace. We've also got Anna Riddell, who's also, in my opinion, one of the best mountain bike coaches in Scotland from Ride Out Coaching, and also happens to be one of my besties. So hi, Anna.
Hi, it's great to be here. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
We've got Jules MacLean, who is a World Cup suspension mechanic. Check it out. And is also one of my good friends, and who always takes my mind off climbing because she can literally talk for Scotland. So
yeah.
Hi, Jules.
Hi. I think everybody would agree on the talking thing.
It does, it helps. Like if you want to climb up hills with any, like get Jules to ride with you, she'll just talk all the way up. It's great. We've got Mikayla Parton, a World Cup racer, 5th in the World Champs last year, so, and is no mouse on the track. So hi, Mikayla.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Hey, Michaela.
And we've been really connecting over the last sort of few months, haven't we? Talking a lot about sort of racing for you and sort of the mentality around that. It's been super interesting. So it's great to have you here and actually join us. So thank you. And then last but certainly not least, we've got Katy Winton, who is an Enduro World Series podium, if that's a thing. So it's amazing to have you. So thank you, Katy.
Thanks very much. Hello, everybody.
Hey, Katy. Thanks for coming.
Brilliant. So yeah, what a lineup. Totally buzzing to have this group together and just have a chat really about your experiences in mountain biking, what it brings you personally, sort of beyond your specific role as well within the industry. And just for you each, you've each got different perspectives. So it's really, we want to hear that. So it's really just, a case of bringing all of that out. So yeah, I'm going to sort of start off asking a question. I'm going to sort of try and answer it sort of for myself as well. So really what I want to talk about initially is your perspective on and experience of being a female rider in mountain biking. Because I know for me, I've certainly been, initially I was very attracted to the female only group sessions, coaching, female only events, female riding, but I also equally love riding in mixed groups. I've got lots of male mountain bike friends, and I think it's a really mixed experience that I've had. Certainly in the racing side of things, I felt definitely a bit intimidated, but was that just because that was me and my sort of character, or is that actually because it was a male dominated sport? I still haven't really quite unpicked. I still think there's things that can be done to improve female racing, categories and things like that. We've obviously got a few racers in the group to sort of talk about that. So yeah, just sort of really interesting to get your specific experiences, from your personal experiences, riding, coaching, racing, but also just in your particular sort of industry and whatnot. So I don't know if anybody wants to kick it off. I feel like I might start with Aneela. Would you like to kick off what your perspective is?
Yes, well, thanks. Yes, well, being a female rider in mountain biking, I mean, the funny thing is I never ever really see myself as a female rider. I see myself as a mountain biker. I love the sport. I'm passionate about it. But obviously, where I work and what I do as a guide, I've seen many different experiences of people within the industry and people involved in the sort of participation side. And when I first started riding, there was no women. I mean, I don't want to say what age I am. I'm probably the oldest here. I don't know, we'll maybe compare later. But yeah, I'm probably the oldest here. And I remember in the early days, I didn't really see any women riding. And I always remember, the only sort of thing that I remember of the old days is that just me trying to get a breath, because I could never keep up with the guys. I was always the one at the back, and I really hated that experience, because guys were riding since they were kids. I've experienced mountain biking in my 20s because somebody introduced it to me, and that's the case for a lot of women. They don't they don't experience it until they get into, they're into sort of later in life. So I was really struggling to keep up. But anyway, to be honest, I didn't really enjoy it to start, because my husband Andy just took me up Monroe's and all sorts of stuff. I didn't really have a kind of introduction, a nice slow introduction to mountain biking. It was just straight up a hill and finding the best descent off a mountain. But then, over the years, I was conscious of the fact that I was one of the few female riders at the time. There was my friend Shona. She was the same as me, struggling to keep up. I recognised for myself that, well, I want to see more women in the space. I want people like me to be part of that space. And then, so 2015, I actually set up some women-only mountain bike tours in Scotland. I think they were the first tours that we've done. And Jules actually, when we were able to before COVID, Jules and I guide together for GoWhere Scotland, and we deliberately made the decision to have some of our trips as women only. And the only reason for that is because, yes, we need to give women a choice to come on to, mountain bike holidays, but we knew that some women just feel they need to be in a space where they feel they can improve their skills, where they don't feel intimidated, that maybe we can use the opportunity to actually build their confidence as well. And that's what Jules might have something to say on this as well, but you really do see an impact at the end of a week riding bikes with women, and actually seeing their confidence, their resilience, just to actually feel so good about being who they are. It wasn't just really about the mountain biking, it's the social aspect, and really what you get from mountain biking. So I suppose it's about, for me as a rider, yes, it's been a real journey, but to be in those spaces with other women, it's been really really empowering for me, but empowering for others, because they can recognize that actually this is a sport for me.
Do you think that space for women to go to a female only guided tour, do you think that's particularly attractive for women? Like, can you reflect on maybe why? Or
yeah, well, the end goal is that we don't want to have separate spaces, do we?
No.
The end goal is about equality, and it's about, true equality is about ensuring that space that was originally, a male-dominated space, is to bring women in there and to have that equal representation. So that's what we're all striving for at the end of the day. And the only way you can do that is to, we talked about, feeling intimidated or not seeing that space is for them. So you do have to create that separate space. And Katy here knows fine well, we work with, Katy's done loads of stuff with the FNY Collective. It's a women's community group. And it is amazing. It's like a magnet. Yeah. So the amount of women just keep going and going and going, because they just, they see other women like themselves, and they see women that are better than them, but they also see women that aren't as good riders as them. So they can be somebody that is a role model, but they can be somebody that can be aspiring to be somebody else,
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and a few of us have also been involved in Air Maiden as well, like Jules, I think Jules, Anila and Anna, you all coached, or Anila, you were guiding perhaps at the Air Maiden. And there's just something really powerful, I find personally, about joining a group of women. I actually think I bring my A game more when I'm with a group of women than I do with a group of men, because it's like, right, come on, I feel really empowered. And so, but I guess, hearing you say about, creating that space initially, I think is actually really important. And now I don't have any issues with riding with my male friends, or, I'd probably be more confident now actually entering enduro races, because my riding ability has improved over the years. And it's really interesting hearing that. Jules, did you want to add in anything there about just, Anila was talking about your guiding and things, or? you want to
Yeah,
add in?
I guess it's a funny one. I've always been a bit conflicted, I guess, on the sort of women's only thing, because it's not something for myself I'm drawn to or that I feel I need. It's not,
Yeah.
it's not something that I've really participated in so much for myself, but I have coached and guided women's groups and watched what people get from it. So I'm like, I see the value, even though it's not necessarily something that I have done myself, if that makes sense, you know? So it's always a bit of a funny one. I'm like, I can see the need and I see the benefit, and I see people, like Anila said, after a week of like riding and growing together, and the people, like women, and their confidence is just soaring, and it's so rewarding to watch. So I see I see the benefits of it, even though it's not something I've actually participated in on the other side of it all that much. I guess probably similarly, it didn't really exist when I first started riding bikes, and then I started joining in on the other side. So but
So what about? Sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say it's interesting because I do see the value.
What about for you personally then? What is it that's allowed you to just flourish in a male-dominated sport and environment, particularly when you think, you know, where you're at now and the job that you're doing now? What is it that's enabled you to sort of flourish in that way? And what's it been like, that journey?
I would maybe say blissful ignorance.
Okay.
Like when I first started.
Can I just ask what is the job that you're doing at the moment?
I am a mountain bike suspension technician for Fox Suspension. So I work at World Cup races and Enduro World Series races as a technician, looking after the suspension for the athletes.
Sorry, I've disappeared. There we go.
Is that must be, I mean, the mechanics of mountain bikes is perhaps even more male dominated than the riding of them.
Yeah, I think at the moment I'm the only female that I'm aware of working as a mechanic or a technician on the circuit. There may be others, so I might be wrong.
That's not something that is too big a sort of problem for you, or would you rather there was more women in your industry?
I think it would be nice if there was more women, definitely. It's not something that I've ever really noticed. So like I say, it's almost blissful ignorance. When I first started to ride bikes, I didn't realise that it was something that women didn't do much of. I just, probably because of where I was in Derailed, and there was just bikes and we started riding bikes and it was fun. And it was only after a few years that I realised that in a lot of places, girls weren't really riding bikes that much, and it was something that needed help. And then it's kind of the same with the mechanicking. I just started doing it. My partner had a suspension service centre and he needed help, and I started helping him and learning, and kind of just went from there. And it's never really been much of an issue, I guess. It's never been something I've thought that much about.
Yeah,
I guess it's really sorry.
Go on.
I was just going to say as well, but what's so important for a person like you, Jules, in your role, is that you're trailblazing for the future generation to actually think that job that you're doing is a possible job for them.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I've got a daughter and I want her to grow up and think, I want to be a mechanic. That's totally cool. And they're never going to think that that's an option for them unless they've got people like you doing the job. So I think that is so important. And in the sense of, although you're quite happy doing it, it's maybe getting more women into doing it and just creating this kind of normality around it that means that the younger generation can choose what they want to do and not feel like they're kind of channeled into a specific gender. role.
Were many of you, did many of
Absolutely.
you have a similar experience to Anila in not getting into the sport until you were a little bit older, like late teens? I know you
Yeah.
were 17,
Yeah, yeah.
Michaela, which is
Yeah.
which is 17
But you-
for the sorry, you as well, Jen. 17. When we were doing that podcast, I was thinking and I hadn't really thought about the difference between men and women, but like for a man getting into racing at 17 would be considered like really pretty late, but it's probably
Yeah.
a lot more common for women. So how old were you guys when you got
Now
this
you're
is now the
asking
age. This is the age
no, not
question.
now,
Now.
not now, just when you got into it. And
Well,
also my other question is, would it have helped if, because I know like my sister, my girlfriend definitely would 100% be much more likely to, like, my sister doesn't like, she'll come to the gym with me, but she doesn't really like going on her own. Same with my girlfriend. And I understand why. Their kind of environments, very male dominated environments, very kind of like predatory, or it can feel quite predatory for women. Would you think you might have got into the sport earlier had there been these kinds of women only groups and rides and events and things?
I'm happy to even jump in and answer some of that.
We can go try and go around everyone, maybe.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I personally, I only started biking when I was like 32, and actually it was Anna specifically that got me into biking. She bought me coaching vouchers for my Christmas. She was actually training for the Strathpuffer at the time, and I started doing laps of like my local it actually is my local woods. It wasn't my local woods at the time. I don't know if you remember, Anna, the Sanker Woods and Forest, and we were just doing laps there, just sort of, and I was like, this is so much fun being on a roller coaster. But yeah, I was like 32, so whether, I don't know whether it would have made, maybe it would have made more difference if there'd been, it just wasn't something that women did. I don't know. I didn't even really know it was a thing, if I'm being totally honest, until Anna sort of introduced me to it. I just didn't even realize that people rode bikes down hills. Like, that was just ridiculous to me. So like, it took me till I was 32 to discover that. So and add another 10 years and here I am. So yeah.
How old were you then, Anna, when you got into it, and how did you get into it?
So I was just a couple of years ahead of Jen. So I got into it, I think I was about 30. I actually got into it after I had my first child. And the reason for that was it was a sanity fix, really. I've always been really sporty and I've always loved doing my thing. So having a baby suddenly was this kind of housebound change in lifestyle that I kind of struggled with to start with. And so to jump on my bike and to just go for a ride from the back door was literally my freedom, my escape, and my kind of reset. And that's how I kind of started getting into mountain biking, because I loved it so much. It was like I could sort of set a time, make sure my husband was home, and I could just say, right, I'm going to go on my bike and I'm going to go and ride for an hour. And that's what I did. And then from that, I just grew. I just kind of liked it. And through my work, I worked with active schools at the time. So those male colleagues that were doing it as well. So I kind of jumped into it that way, I would say.
That's interesting. Was it something, I'm just wondering, in terms of like doing a sport around being a parent and being a mother, mountain biking maybe is there anything that makes that more accessible for mothers than like the sports we've done previously, or was it not really about that?
It wasn't. There was a practical, like, because you can go out for a run, but when you have a young baby, I was feeding my baby myself, and it was just like the thought of running, when you were like, you'd have to time it so perfectly or have the best sports bra that it wouldn't be uncomfortable. So it just seemed like the really natural thing was, and I've always loved cycling. Like, I grew up in Edinburgh and rode a bike to uni, rode a bike to like all sorts of things. So biking was it's always been a thing for me anyway, but just never in a mountain biking setting. So no, I would just say I just kind of naturally was drawn to it. And also the sort of the adrenaline fix you can get quite quickly from mountain biking. It really ticked a lot of boxes. I moved to the coast to surf, and that relies on the certain kind of weather conditions and all that. So whereas biking, you can go out anytime, day and night, and also any weather. So that was, it ticked all those boxes in that sense, because your life sort of changes from having all this freedom and escape to then being a parent and having none. So that hour fix is your like
Your lifeline.
it totally is your lifeline. It gets you through for sure. So yeah.
What about you, Katie? You were a little bit younger. I know your dad was into mountain biking because he actually used to coach me in the sports academy along with Scott Lindsay and stuff. So
oh wow.
How old were you when you got into it?
Yeah, that was absolutely way back in the day.
I know, a long time ago now.
Well, I've been into biking as long as I can remember, so it's a completely different story for me. My dad's a keen cyclist. It was kind of like our weekend activity that we do as a family. Me and my brother and my dad take us away, give mum a break. And then, just escalated from there, really. I loved it, got into racing, and then cracked on, really.
Was that ever like just in terms of this question over if how needed it is to have like women only kind of events or groups or something, was that ever something that you would have liked as a younger athlete or valued as a younger rider, or did you not really think about it?
I didn't really think about it because I think when you're young, you're all just mucking in together, and girls, boys, whatever, and you just crack on. And I always used to just chase after whoever was faster than me, and it didn't matter who they were. I just crack on. It was usually like there was two boys that were faster, and then it'd be me like trying to catch up with them, and then I'd be faster than all the other girls. I'd say faster than the girls. Now I just need to get faster than the boys. So yeah, like it was nice because there was a kind of smaller group of us girls, and we were quite tight knit, but just because there was only a few of us. But I think the kids clubs were really, really good for me because that's how I met my friends, and I stayed involved in the sport because I had pals that were doing it too, not necessarily my age or my gender, but just friends that rode bikes. So that was really valuable for me. The other thing is, right, I'm very competitive, and I was into mountain biking for racing. I wanted to go fast, I wanted to win. So that was really my main focus. And I had found through school and stuff, the majority of girls aren't that competitive, and that's totally fine. But I got my satisfaction out of battling with the boys and doing all that stuff. So if there'd been girl only stuff, it would have had to have been racing for me to have been interested in it. You know what I mean? So, but that's because I've come at it at a different angle.
Yeah.
Mountain biking's all like the good stuff of like getting out in the open, all my training and stuff I love because I go out and I explore different places, I ride different places. So I've got all of that element, but I do it to race. And so it's just the thing that's kept me going is different. So it's I get something different from it than just.
And what's that like being a female rider in the racing scene then? Do you feel that there's any, are you treated differently? Are you like what's it like being? Is there barriers? I mean, I'm getting the vibe that possibly not, and it's really refreshing actually hearing from Jules talking about how it just isn't, isn't really a thing.
Like
it's really refreshing. Is that
Jules
like
and I have talked about this
Katie?
before because Jules and I have kind of a similar opinion about it, and I'm the same, but just complete blissful ignorance. Like I knew what I wanted to do, and I was just going to do it. Didn't matter whether there was any girls doing it or not. I was just cracking on and doing it. It's like there was no barrier there for me personally because I wasn't acknowledging it. It was just like, well, I want to go and race. I can see the top of the sport. There's women that are racing, so well, I'll just crack on and do that then.
So without that though, do you think, because that's a really good point linked to what Anna was saying earlier, having role models. So you had role models that were sort of carving a path in a sense for you to do that. Do you think that helped?
Yes, I do, but I just want to be the best in the world. And it doesn't, like, I get inspiration from likes of Andy Murray, like, Chris Hoy. It doesn't matter their gender. I'm inspired by them cracking on and facing adversity and coming back, and then the success that they've achieved, and that makes me want to pursue that. So it doesn't matter who they are or what they're doing,
I love that. I just got
go.
goosebumps. It's exciting. I just want to be the best in the world. That's like
I
so
just think
inspiring.
the only limits are the ones you put on yourself. And if you close yourself down into being, I'm a woman, so that only means I can do this. It's like, no, it means you can do anything.
And we were talking about this the other day, Katie. You were saying, you know, it's not necessary. It shouldn't just be because of your gender. You know, maybe it just comes down to sort of character, mindset, mentality, and how you approach that. And actually, it is really refreshing, because I know, like, exactly what you've said. For me personally, I've allowed it to limit me, and actually, you know, that's something that's for me personally to address. It's not necessarily because of, you know, the way I've been treated. Maybe I've noticed things because I'm sensitive to it, but actually looking around, actually there's so many men in the sport and that are so encouraging, you know.
Do you think though there's a difference between sort of not just putting like barriers on women getting into MTB, but actually like something like a women's group, like to use my sister and my girlfriend again, they're quite like much more kind of not competitive at all, kind of much more like girly girls. And it's not like they wouldn't like sport, like they're like, everyone likes moving around and gets all the benefits of being outside and whatnot. But certainly it just seems like, there's a difference between like really encouraging all women to like, this is a sport that, look, there's lots of women doing it. It's not like, because like competitiveness is actually something that a lot of people, not just women, for men too, but like that kind of like, we're going to train and compete and go really fast. Like for some people, maybe more women than men, that's like oh no, that's not really for me so much.
I think it's across the board. You need to have all, just like you do for guys, there needs to be an element of just participation. So just mountain biking for fun, you know. I, with my coaching business, I very much like to try and think that you can cater for all, like regardless of gender. It doesn't really matter. When I have a client come to me, it doesn't matter to me if they're male or female. What I want to find out from them is what they want to get out of the experience. So what are their expectations, and why are they coming? Like what for what reason? And once we have a chat about that and find out, some people are really specific. They want to get faster. They want to get better because they want to take part in a race. Other people are just like, I just want to have a day outside and just have some fun and meet some new people. And that's actually, when they think about it, that's their main aim for coming along to a coaching day or a guided day or whatever. So I think there needs to be opportunity for people to do whatever it is that suits their personality and their character, and making that accessible to everyone. So more coaches, more opportunities, more things available, which is happening. It is happening.
Were you, Michaela?
Oh, go on.
Sorry, you go.
I was literally
already on
no.
it.
Oh no, it's okay. I was literally just about to put.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I was going to say, obviously, like Michaela, you're sort of newer into biking than most of us. So I wonder if you can sort of reflect on sort of what it looks like to you, what your experience is. You know, personally, when you first started, you know, we were all probably riding. I think I met you when you were sort of at the beginning of your sort of riding. I think certainly met you through in Fort William enduros, or I'm not sure where we met first, but quite a few years ago now. But what, you're the newest into the industry, so what does it look like to you? What's your experience?
Yeah, I think I feel quite like similar to what Katie was saying and Jules, that I have almost been a bit unaware of that situation. Like I always, although I didn't grow up biking, I always skied, and I've always really been into skiing and like did instructing. And when I did that, like that was my kind of thing that I would do at the weekend when I was a kid or a teenager, was I'd go skiing.
Yeah.
I guess I wasn't even aware of the fact I was going skiing usually with boys. It didn't really, like, until now, like I wouldn't really think back and think, oh, I was just hanging out with the boys. It was just people I like to ski with, and we were at the same level, and they wanted to ski the same stuff, and we were friends, and like that was just how it was. And like I wasn't aware at all of like the fact I'm a girl and they're a boy. And I'd like to think as well they also weren't like, they didn't care about that either. I was almost just like just one of them. Like we were just a group of friends, and they were also some of the people I started riding bikes with at the start. So that's also a thing that I actually did start riding bikes with guys, which is quite usual, and like my friends. And although I did ride with my mum a lot, which helped, but I was very unaware of it, and in a good way. I never felt excluded or, oh, I don't want to go because I'm a girl. Like I just never felt like that. And same with racing as well. Like there's definitely situations where you could maybe feel slightly intimidated, but I think that's totally down to like myself feeling that way, being insecure, not at all like anyone putting that on me, and which is a really positive thing that I've never felt like, oh, I can't do that because I'm a girl. And same with Katy, like I am competitive and I always want to be fast and good, and like I don't mind I don't care if it's a girl or a boy. I just want to be fast. I want to be confident, and I don't mind who I ride with, and yeah, I definitely don't feel like I've ever felt excluded because I'm a woman.
Yeah. Amazing. Oh, it's just so interesting hearing all like the different sort of perspectives, like from coaching to racing and guiding and yeah, all the different sort of events. Does anybody else want to sort of add something else in, or Morg, have you got any other questions? Anila?
Yeah, sorry, Morgan, you go.
I was just going to say, it is actually really great having that. Like we've done a lot of these podcasts and they've usually been with racers. And when you ask racers, how they got into riding and then why they started racing, they're usually just like, well, I got into it and then, a year later I started racing. And it's and they're very competitive, unusually competitive people. Whereas, and this isn't just a thing for women, it's also a thing for men. Like there's some men that aren't very competitive and will be put off by like just seeing racing all the time as like the only thing you are exposed to in mountain biking. It's not just, and it is like, it's a hard one to sort of rectify. I think just showing that other side of the sport, like it's not just racing, it's not just about who's the fastest, it's also about kind of getting out with your friends. So it's actually it is great hearing both this sort of racing perspective and the non-racing perspective.
Yeah, I think I've seen that more actually with coaching. Is I've got like probably more male clients, I'd say, than female clients at the moment, and I'd say definitely because they're just wanting to come along and have some fun. Yeah, they're not wanting to, they're not taking it too seriously. They just want to maybe stop crashing, stop falling off and get some more skills and have a good day out. And just, people are working hard and they just want to spend their weekends having fun.
I think Jen and I were talking about this as well before this chat, was they're saying like, you think about the number of total men in mountain biking, and there'll be a huge percentage that don't race and they're just doing it for fun. And then you look at the amount of women racing, and it's growing, but it's a smaller number, and that there'll be a huge percentage that just want to have fun, and that's why it's just the general numbers. That's why there's a smaller amount racing. But most people, the majority of people that are into mountain biking, just love mountain biking. They just love getting out. They love having a good time. They love going for big long rides or whatever element of it that they love. But the majority of the numbers all across the world will be people just going out for a pedal.
Yeah, exactly. What were you going to say, Anila?
Yeah, and I totally agree with Katy there. People just want to have fun and enjoy it. I mean, we all get so much from mountain biking, don't we? It's good for our resilience, good for our mental health in so many ways. I think I just want to bring a different perspective background here, in the sense that my own experience of mountain biking, it is an amazing place to be. Once you're in that space, it's like everybody that's talking here, it's great, it's wonderful. But I think what I'm questioning is I want to open that space up to everyone, so there's nothing wrong with it. People say, all right, is it the people, is it the community? No, because the community is amazing. We all love mountain biking and what it gives us. But the barriers are basically how you actually get people into that space. How can you become mountain bike leaders? How can you be coaches? How can you be working in the industry and having that equal space? So I think sometimes we focus on what it's like for ourselves, and our experiences are good, but it's thinking about what about people out there that may not have that experience.
It's the perception, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think we talked about age and and not riding at an early age, but you have to question. So why weren't we biking? When we were younger. And to me, my own personal experience is, when I was a young girl, I wasn't encouraged to take risks. I wasn't encouraged to do things that would you know, that were, you know, out in the outdoors, doing things that were, you know, that weren't girly. And so I was socialized, you know, and we are socialized into being something because we are a girl, we are a boy. I mean, there was a really amazing thing that I saw the other day, and it was about a picture of a clothes shop for girls and boys. And so there was these really lovely little NASA vests. But guess which aisle it was in? It was in the boys aisle. It wasn't in the girls aisle. You know, so what's happening there? What's that telling you about what we're perceived to be as girls and boys, and how we take that into the future? And it is about having those role models to, you know, we've all had role models. We've all been able to you know, be inspired by that. But I think it goes back to Anna's point about, what about the people out there that might not have that don't actually see that mountain biking is for them? So, I mean, that's where my passion comes from, is that we all get something from it. So why can't we give other people that opportunity too?
Yeah, I think that's an amazing point, Anila, because I think, and like Katie said, there's so many people out there that, you know, the proportions of men and women that are racing is probably quite low, and it's about trying to find ways that we can encourage that. And I guess that is actually ultimately what the Contour Collective is all about as well, is about promoting participation for everyone, and looking at those sort of areas where the participation is perhaps low, so or, you know, trying to get more people involved in it. So I think it sort of leads on in a sense, because I think what's probably quite good to cover is to talk about what we actually all get out of mountain biking. You know, aside from you know, sort of the fact that it's all your jobs, essentially, what you're involved in. You know, when I speak to people about what they get from mountain biking, it's always one of the first words is always that sense of freedom. So I just wonder, you know, we all ride bikes. I'm certainly repping the regular rider, so I'm, you know, not racing or not doing anything in particular. I've started my little level 2 guiding sort of journey, but partly just to upskill myself, really, at the moment. But aside from you as a coach, or aside from you as a racer or a mechanic or a guide, you all love mountain biking. You've all said that quite clearly. So what is it that you actually get from mountain biking, aside from your kind of working role, if you like, or racing role or coaching role or whatever? So, yeah. Who would like to jump in? Mikayla, you looked like you were going to jump in.
Yeah, I think like Anna said earlier, obviously it's completely different in my situation. I don't have kids, but I think it's that mountain biking for me at the beginning was just something really fun to do, and it made you feel better. It just made you feel great, and it was exciting as well, because I was obviously learning and I didn't realize this was something I could do. But then it still is that, like, there's days where I want to go ride my bike because I want to ride my bike, not because I want to train or got something particular to do. I just really want to ride my bike. Or if you're having like a bad day or you feel bad, or it just makes you feel better. And that is definitely, I think, what wasn't necessarily what started me racing, but I think it's what drove me to progress. Was I was using my bike at a time where I needed this to feel better, and I was using it as like for mental health, and then realizing like, oh, this is actually really good, and I was progressing, and I still use it for that. It's an escape, isn't it, from the normal world and
absolutely
everything else.
Yeah, absolutely. I know it's an amazing, just sort of turning the pedals. You can be in a bit of a funk, and you know, even sometimes don't even feel like going out riding, and then as soon as you jump on the bike, you just, the minute you turn the pedals, you feel better.
Never regret
the minute never regret a ride
with other people as well. It just gets you out the door, and
yeah
and the feeling of like getting better at something. And you've got, especially if your local trails, there's always bits that you maybe didn't do before or you want to work on, and like there's no better feeling than when you get something you haven't ridden, or you
nailed a section.
ride it well. It's one of those things that you never get it on video. You're like, oh, I got that corner so good, like, no one saw.
But you know, in your own heart,
you're like,
I've nailed that bit. Yeah. No, I think you're right. I think like there's the both sides. There's the love of the progression, definitely. Like there's nothing that beats the feeling of progressing and nailing a section that you can maybe do before, and maybe it's coaching that's helped you do that, or it's just a different mindset that day. But also just that, I love nothing more than just going out into the hills and just riding my bike. And it doesn't even have to have sort of technical descents. I can just go and turn my pedals, and just whether that's on my own or with a friend. And I know that everybody in this group has got, those kind of different sides to what they enjoy about biking. So yeah, absolutely.
Anila, you called it just a second ago. You said it was like creating a space, so it's like a space for women to come and enjoy the sport. And for me, certainly that's exactly what mountain biking and all the things that have come with mountain biking, like all training and all that other stuff. It's a space that like it's kind of the same space every time, and it's like a very sort of healing and wholesome like space that you just have access to. And that's the real wonder of it, is it's this like space that you can go every weekend and you feel better all week, having been there.
Yeah.
What Jules, what is mountain biking? What does it mean to you?
I guess it's probably the adventure, getting out into nature and stuff. When I was 25 when I started biking, and I must admit I started quite reluctantly because my friend decided to sign us up for a charity challenge where you had to hike and cycle, and I thought it was a terrible idea. And so I got a bike, and for probably the first year of riding bikes, I just rode fire roads, and I kind of thought that was mountain biking, but for miles, just adventure, just cycling along fire roads, and I loved it. It was like the best fun. And then I started to figure out that actually you could do more than that, and it got more fun and more fun. And 9 years later, it's my job and everything. So, but yeah, I think the biking part of it definitely is the adventure. It's getting out sort of far away, somewhere that maybe you couldn't get to walking, or you could, but it would take a few days. Whereas on your bike, you can get to sort of wilderness and away from people, I must admit. Peace and wilderness and nature. I love riding trails, and I love riding technical stuff, and I love the excitement and the buzz and getting better and improving and challenging myself. But mostly I love the adventure and getting kind of away out into the wilderness.
I like your away from people, Jules.
Me too.
We do. We meet a lot of people in the industry, don't we, in our jobs?
What about you, Katy?
Well, from an early age, for me, it was a great escape of just being able to blast up and out and into the hills and get a wee break from everything. So yeah, that freedom is still a massive part of it for me, and it is that it's a literal space. It's like being at the top of a hill and looking out and just going, whew, nice. Just like, sweet, that's good. My problems are tiny. Look at these hills. They've been here for longer than I've been here. Like, then they'll still be here tomorrow. Like, it's all going to be fine. And then just blasting down the other side. But it's the freedom, it's the space, it's exploring new places, seeing new places. I love going fast. Absolutely love going fast. But equally, I'm quite happy to just go out and pedal and stand at the top of a hill for a wee while and just come down the other side. And
take it in.
Yeah, totally.
Get the wind in your hair. My mum always says, Jen, you need to get the wind in your hair. Out you go.
Yeah, and also as well, it's like going hard, like up a hill, and just really getting rid of all that pent up energy that you might have if things aren't going well or whatever. You just go and let it out on that hill, and then get to top and go, wow, mint. Then the other side, sweet. And then it's just that total reset. And you can do that yourself, or you can do that with pals and have a great time and have a total laugh and just forget about everything and just just get real silly with it because it's all like crazy. Sometimes the conditions are crazy. So I think it's a total break, and you have to be completely in the moment, especially when you're on more technical trails. And it's very hard to do that with things these days. And it's so when you can ride down a trail and you're focused on what you're doing in order to be safe, that's very nice. Total break.
That's a really good way of looking at it there, actually, Katie. I like that whole being present, being in the moment, you know, being right there. Nothing else actually matters, but, you know, the space that you're in and the pedals you're turning and the descent you're about to go down. It's an amazing feeling.
And
I always,
actually, like for racing, that is why I love racing, because when I'm stood at the top of that run, nothing else matters at all. All that matters is me getting down from A to B as fast as possible, as safely as possible, getting back to the top again and doing it again over and over again. Nothing else matters. And that is a very beautiful thing to have. And it's like, I've worked all freaking year for this, and here I am. And now nothing else matters. None of the stress, none of the nonsense you've had to go through. It's all just the best time of your life right now for the next 10 minutes. You know?
But I would say just as a non-racer, I get that feeling of like, you know, whether I necessarily think of it consciously before I'm about to go down a trail, but there is nothing else that matters when I'm about to go down a trail that I'm maybe a little bit scared of or whatever. So I think, you know, with a racer's head on for yourself, you've worked all year for it, but I can still relate to that feeling. You know, even as a non-racer, just a regular person that rides their bike, I still get that sense of nothing else matters right now about me just getting down this trail. And something that I definitely associate with you, Jules, is what is it you often say? It's like the best rider is the one having the most fun, you know? And actually that is something that always really, you know, sort of helps me as well. It is just about having fun when you're doing it. It's just, you know, pushing yourself as much as you can, but sort of having fun. But I know, Anna, you're quite passionate about sort of what riding your bike gives you and about the kind of riding. You've got quite an interesting mindset when it comes to just getting out there and you know, pushing yourself, but not necessarily racing wise as well, but also when you just go out for your big long days. Do you want to add anything in from there?
Well, I guess when you're asking the initial question, I think for me, the two main things are similar to everyone else, obviously, so it's a wee bit boring, I guess, but joy, like the word joy for me is just sort of describes it all, like where that's that kind of being in the moment and just feeling joy. Yes, riding bike to me is joy. And then the other main thing that it is for me is connection. So that basically depends on what I'm feeling that day, or what if I'm working or if I'm not, whatever, but it's connecting to myself. And, you know, that can be that, you know, beasting yourself up a hill or just riding in a total like blazing blizzard, whatever. So it's connecting to who you are and what you want to achieve, whatever, and connecting to nature. Some days you just want to go out and you're just like in awe of everything around you. You're like, holy smoke, like, aren't we so lucky to live in Scotland and have so much freedom and escape on our doorstep? So connecting with nature. And then also now through my work, it's just connecting with other people. Like, I absolutely now totally love sharing the joy with other people. And I think I originally, like Jen, you'll know this through and through, I originally got into biking to be on my own. You know, it's always like, for me, my sport. Jen was like, can we go for a ride? I'm like, no, I'm going on my own. I'm coming. She's like, okay, right, why? You know, so it's always, for me, I started to be on my own, and I still obviously do a lot of stuff to be on my own. But now there's also a massive element for me to connect and share, and the individuals you meet through biking. You can meet like a 12-year-old and have a brilliant day and riding with them, or you can meet like a 70-year-old and the same, and then all those people can ride together, and it's just, and everyone's you can come from any background, and all those things are really, really important to me now. So sharing the joy.
Yeah. And and when we, you know, when you and I go on sort of like big days or whatever, I know how much you love your solo riding, absolutely, but I know how much you get out of, you know, sort of like sharing that, like with me, and we have all these big chats and we put the worlds to rights and whatnot, but you love nothing more than just sort of almost pushing yourself. Like you love just pushing yourself, like, you know, carrying your bike up a hill, or like in any elements, you know, like any weather conditions. And I'm sure everyone else is, you know, experiences that as well. But I just know that personally from riding with you, how much you love that. So yeah, thanks for sharing that.
What about you, Anila?
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much the
The
same
big
as
mountain rider, Anila. That's how I think of you.
pretty much the
Big
same
ride.
as everybody else. But I think one thing for me is that risky play builds resilience. And, you know, you can say you can get a lot out of cycling, but for mountain biking, one of the things that keeps me going, it keeps me on my toes. You take risks, you know, in the sense that you're always pushing yourself to work harder, whether it's getting over that mountain, like Katie was saying, getting to the top. You know, that feeling is amazing. And for me, it is about actually using that in my everyday life, and just knowing that if I can do shit on a bike, then it makes me feel good about doing other things in life. So yeah, you know, I'm one for big mountains. I'm missing the big mountains so much right now. But you know, I think one of the things we talked about there, and it was Katie talked about, you know, reset. And for me, it is about reconnecting with myself. Anna was talking about it. And Andy always knows, you know, my partner Andy, he always knows when I'm really itching to get away on a solo bike ride, whether it's away for a few days or it's away for a week. I've been away for a month. Once up to the Isle of Harris, up to the Orkneys, all my own, just a bike ride, just me and my bike, and just to reconnect with myself, because I was all over the place and really had to figure out what the hell was going on. So my bike is my tool, isn't it? It's your tool to kind of to what sometimes in UK to freedom. Freedom. It's like Braveheart all
Every
over
time.
again.
Top of the hill,
Every
conquer
time.
it, freedom!
Yeah. My Scotland flag at the top. Paint my face. Yeah, it is. Isn't it? Like Anna was saying, you know, the social aspect of it is, I mean, we're so lucky. I'm all of us have got our you know, our riding buddies and our communities. And I live in the Tweed Valley, and we've got like an awesome group of women here. So, and everybody else, you know, it's just a great place to ride, and it's obviously I'm missing the social aspect right now, but that's one thing that is so lovely about being able to share your love with others. And I just hope that we can get that day back again soon.
I was actually thinking how, like, for me, mountain biking has always been the social side. Like, you know, for some of you, you've said, you know, it was about that sense of freedom and that sense of getting away. But for me, it's definitely always been the social. So actually having lockdown. What? Did I miss something?
No, I just know that that's just you through and through.
But it's just me
like,
through and
it's all
through,
about the
isn't it?
social.
It's all about the social.
Yeah.
And but what's been really interesting, as much as I'm missing obviously that side of things in terms of lockdown and not, and you know, one or, you know, whatever it is, it keeps changing, but you know, basically not having those kind of group rides and not being easily able to move around, it has actually taught me to enjoy more time on my own. And actually biking for me has been a massive saviour. And I never really used to go biking on my own. And obviously I go out biking a lot on my own now, and because I have had to, because of lockdown and COVID and whatnot. And actually it's really taught me so much about the benefits of just going out and riding your bike and actually having that time on your own. So literally in the last year, I've only really learned that, because yeah, like Anna's laughing. It just has always been about the social. Like I always try and combine, you know, like biking weekends with a bit of a party, or like, you know, like.
Yeah, I've been out with you with a couple of beers at the end of some rides up in Ballater.
Yeah, I do like a social. So yeah, it's always been a bit of social for me. So in some kind of funny sort of a way, as much as I'm missing all of that, missing all my riding pals, like you've mentioned, I'm definitely benefiting, I think, from lockdown in that sense, where I'm learning to actually enjoy just the pure joy of riding more than, and actually sometimes for me, even though it was always about the social, it was often sometimes that brings anxieties around, who I'm riding with. Am I going to be behind? Am I going to be last? And all those sort of issues. And gradually, just over time, I've learned the people that, that I enjoy riding with and that, are don't care about that sort of stuff, But yeah, learning to ride on my own has been a massive, massive thing over lockdown. And I've really benefited, I think, from it. So it's interesting hearing you guys talking about, going off and escaping and doing your own thing. So it's been really interesting. Yeah.
I definitely agree with I think it was Mikayla earlier on talked about the mental health benefit, because I know myself, like you've mentioned anxieties and I have all sorts. And one thing that's amazing when you're on your bike, when you're someone that can be really in your own head a lot, second guessing yourself a lot, always stressing and worrying about what you've said or done or any number of things that can cause anxiety. And then when you're
spoken about this a lot.
Yeah. And then when you get to like a really technical climb or a really technical piece of trail, and all of that goes away. And just for a minute or a few minutes, it's all gone. And you're just focusing on, I think it was like Katie was saying, getting from the top to the bottom. For her, as fast as possible, me just in one piece. But yeah, getting down and you're just focusing on that and nothing else. And just for a short time, all of those other stresses and worries go out of your head. And that can be lovely, I think.
Totally. Yeah, it's interesting. We all talk about it as like, it's like fun and escape and a thrill and stuff. And it is all those things. But in some ways, you can't even put into words the other thing that it is, which is like, certainly for me, it's been like, it's saved me, from the sort of like from real kind of what could be quite something like quite dark, but just having that, it's so grounding, and that's what it is. And when you're in a good place, it's like really fun and amazing. But when you're, it's almost even more beneficial if you're going through something, because it actually kind of keeps you afloat, like having that passion.
Absolutely. I just recently discovered playing music as well when I go riding, because my riding's always been quite social. I've never really thought about it before. So I've started playing music and like, I come back and I'm like, I've just had a party on my bike. It's amazing. Did anybody else listen to music in their riding?
Sometimes.
Do you, Mikayla?
Yeah. I don't think I wouldn't listen to it as I go down a track, because I think I'd definitely end up in a heap at the bottom. Like, but I like, if I go out on my own, I'll definitely bring my earphones. I always bring my earphones actually if I'm on my own, and yeah, it's so nice, and you just kind of have a little party on your own. And you're like, half people, you're like, hey,
I actually have some questions, a couple of questions anyway, Anila, about these. So I'm just quite interested in this, just from as sort of maybe as like an outsider, obviously as someone who's not a woman. About
you're not a woman.
I just sorry, what? This is women only.
I'm just quite interested. I wonder if you could tell people listening, people watching, a little bit more about what you're doing with these women only group rides and things.
So obviously Jules and Katy have been involved in some of my work, but as I said, over the last few years, I have sort of made it my passion to get more women out. So I've been doing lots of different projects. I've got loads of different hats. So I think some of the things I'd like to talk about is the young girls work that I do. And I've just set up a collaboration with one of the local cycling clubs and with a local secondary school teacher. And it's going to be launched soon. It's called Misadventures. And
Brilliant.
it's about getting more young girls out into mountain biking and experiencing what that's about. But it's not about us, it's about other young girls that are already mountain biking, encouraging other young girls to take part. So we had a big idea to do a festival last year, but obviously couldn't do it. So they're all working on a video series called My Mtb Essentials right now. So they've all picked a theme, and we're going to launch them in March. How to ride your bike, what to pack when you go out for a ride, how to wash your bike, and so we'll be launching that in a couple of weeks. But it's not just that side of it. It's about the fact that young girls, they're twice as likely to drop out of sport once they get to adolescence and through adolescence and adulthood. And so we need to pick those girls up at that age to tell them how awesome mountain biking is.
Mm-hmm.
And whether they might disappear from it, that's okay, but maybe when they get past their teenage years, that they'll be able to see, actually, this is something for me. So that's what this project is about capturing those girls at that age. And we've done loads of stuff with them. We've been out doing bothy bike packing. So we've been going out to bothies with kids and been able to sort of build their been able to be more self-sufficient, knowing, how to cook and how to sleep rough. Some of them slept outside under the stars. So, all of this kind of stuff is important to me, because I think for me, I never had those opportunities as a young girl.
Yeah.
I had a really strict Pakistani background. I'm from a father, so didn't really allow us to have an opportunity to participate in sport. It was seen as flaunting yourself if you took part, wearing gym clothes and sports clothing. So we weren't allowed to be involved in things like that. So I think that's where the kind of passion comes from. But not just that. I don't know, Katy, do you want to say about the FNY Collective? I mean, you've been involved in that. I'll just shut up now.
You're the absolute goddess of all of this, Aneela.
It's really interesting. I love hearing about what you've been up to. Do you think, sorry, I had one question just based on what you said. Do you think you're getting young girls to get other young girls into the sport, as opposed to, I'm assuming, like yourself going to a school and sort of encourage? Do you think that's more effective? Is actually you getting...
Yeah. I'm only the facilitator. I call myself the enabler. I'm not the one that is there to be the role model or to show what I do. It's to help others, to empower, to get others to ride. So young girls, there's loads of young girls in the Tweed Valley that are doing some amazing things, and why shouldn't they be encouraging others to participate? And they actually value that in themselves, and they recognize that they could actually play a part in this. So that's the power of actually building their confidence to see themselves as leaders. And we've also seen some of those girls actually go on to become leaders, build up friendships through these events, build their confidence. So yeah, it's not about the old people.
Cool. That's amazing. Katy, what's your involvement?
Well, I think it's really powerful and valuable what you're doing, Aneela, because just from my own perspective, it's always been racing, and I'm gnarly with it, and that's not always that attractive. It's not what's always going to keep, because as we've discussed, most people just want to get into it and have fun. So I think what's so valuable about your work, Aneela, is it's showing how you can ride bikes. It doesn't need to be racing. It can be about going on adventures. It can be about being a leader. It can be about encouraging other people into sport. It can be about creating groups and clubs in order to bring more people together and create more friendship groups and things like that. And I think for women, we love connection. We love talking. We don't stop talking. For a lot of us, we don't stop talking. And so if we can create those groups and friendship groups at a young age where they socialize by doing mountain biking, even if they grow up and they go away from cycling and things, maybe they're a wee bit older and they go, oh, like I've moved to a new place now, I need to meet new people. How did I meet new people? I used to have good friends when I rode bikes, and then they come back into it and things. So it's amazing to give young girls that opportunity, but just young people. It can be men, like the wee boys, the wee girls, but giving them that opportunity and showing there's so many different ways to be involved in sport that doesn't mean they need to be competitive. It doesn't have to just be competition. I think it's great, and it's good for me to open my eyes as well to when I'm speaking with young people and things, and they're like, oh yeah, we like what you're doing, but I don't think I'm ever going to be a racer. And then I can be like, well, look at all this other stuff that's going on that you can still be involved in, and you can still do sport, you can still love mountain biking. It doesn't mean you need to be a racer.
So I think across the board with mountain biking, like even when you think about the way it's marketed, it's sometimes it's created as this adrenaline kind of really hardcore sport, isn't it? And I think sometimes that can be quite a barrier to people. Even companies selling products and stuff, they'll put like really rad pictures up of people. And you think, well, the majority of people that are going to buy that product are probably going to ride a blue trail, you know, like that kind of level. And it's just like, it does look really cool, but at the same time, you have to kind of think, well, can you maybe, I don't know, it's just a wee thought I had.
I just like, how can you make it more relatable so that people can go, I can see myself in that position, rather than like seeing likes of like Cade and stuff that are doing all these gnarly rad tricks, and you're just like, cool. You do that. I have no idea what that's going to be like.
Totally, and I guess there's a massive place for that as well, because you know there's the Danny McCaskill kind of world out there where it is just unbelievably amazing and stuff. But yeah, I think there is it's such an important field to kind of be able to have young people relate to think, can I do that? Because that's what they're thinking. They're watching you and thinking, could I be like that? And if you're too cool, maybe not. You just have to be not as cool, Katie. That's it.
I am not cool. It's fine. I'm a massive goofball.
I think sometimes all you need is to get 100 women in a room dressing up and being silly. You know, just letting their hair down, not thinking about anything apart from just being in that moment. You know, for us as part of the FNY collective, it's another hat. You know, we have these events that we've had over 100 women come to, and it's just incredible how they can actually. It's almost like they've forgotten who they are. It's just,
or they're bringing their true self. They're leaving they're leaving their mum role or their partner role or their kind of their job behind. So maybe it's actually about becoming real again. Or I don't know, maybe a combination of both.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. It's just the way that you know, the last one we had I mean, half a dozen men that were dressed up as burglars, and what was the concept, Katie? And Emma came up with it. It was you had to catch the burglars in the forest, so you had 100 women running around after half a dozen men in burglar outfits.
Trying to find clues and get all the little bits together.
Not gender riddles. Stereotyping at all there.
Absolutely not. Absolutely yes.
The boys loved it though. They couldn't believe it. They were just as electrified as the women though. They were just like, wow, because the atmosphere was insane, and it's the feedback that we've had. Like, honestly, it was amazing. Like, people just all the women were just like, we can't, you know, I didn't think I was that good, and then I was riding with these people, and it didn't matter, and I felt so much better about my riding, and I've met so many people, you know, people just coming along having known nobody else. They just come along and I've met so many great people, we've just had a great time, and then the guys are all just like, wow, it's electrifying. This atmosphere is incredible. This is mountain biking when you get everyone together and they're all buzzing off it. And it wasn't a competition. It was just a load of fun. It was just a load of fun. And we, because so many people are just into mountain biking for the fun, it's like these events don't just need to be for women. These events need to be for
Yeah.
everyone. We need to have more events like this where it's just fun. It's just for good times. It's a good laugh, and there's definitely a massive scope for more of that for sure.
Yeah.
But
one of the enduro races, that's not the Scottish Enduro, one of the enduros in Perth, every year around Halloween sort of time would be a fancy dress, and that wasn't, it wasn't female specific, it was male female, and it was just a completely different atmosphere to when you like everyone dressed up. I've got this photo of me in a cape that just happens to be flying out behind me as I'm going off this like little drop, and it's just hilarious. And people in banana suits and all sorts, like just riding their bikes, and it just changes the atmosphere completely and takes away.
Katy was dressed up as a pumpkin.
Was that a pumpkin?
Yeah, I had a massive pumpkin. I had a cardboard pumpkin on. It just sets the tone, though. It sets the tone for the whole event.
It does, straight away.
No stereotypes here. There's no egos. We're all just here having a silly old
time.
And it's okay to be a bit weird or whoever you are, because we're all just being a bit silly, and that's fine.
Love it.
Yeah, we'll be getting Jules has been involved. We'll be getting Anna and Michaela at the next one. So
are you doing
the northern influence down?
Yeah. Bring me down in a bus. Come on.
Yeah.
To the valley.
Us northerners. We'll pick you up on the way, Jules. Are you doing anything, Anila, with the Fanny Collective or with any of the female groups? Are you doing anything for International Women's Day specifically, or do you want to talk a bit about that?
We just kind of came up with a kind of rough idea on the WhatsApp the other night, really. So it's me, myself. It's me, Emma, Neil, and Julie Mulhavey. We're all a team together that work as part of the FNY Collective, and we've been doing quite a lot of things down through lockdown just to keep people motivated, and so we've had like a summer challenge. We found, I'm going to just have to say the word, I'm sorry, Jen.
Go for it.
But the FNY Collective has another name, which is the Fanny Collective.
Fanny Collective.
And we found a mountain which was called the Mount Fanny in the States. I think it was about, 2,800 meters. So we set a challenge for women to do that in the summer. So I think we had over 50 women that participated, but we obviously were doing that in lockdown and had to do that teamed up with others. But what we are doing is we are doing an event really just to get people connected, Jen, giving them a challenge to, I don't know really what the challenge is. You'll need to ask Emma or Julie. That's a bit I'm not very good at. But we've set a specific challenge, and we'll be launching that in the next week or two. The other thing we're doing is we're also launching an Awesome Women series. And we have somebody on this very call right now who's going to be one of our inspiring women for the first feature. So we've got Katy lined up to tell us a little bit about herself. So we'll be celebrating a few women on that day.
Amazing. So is it going to be some sort of challenge that perhaps it'll be like, maybe people posting photos linked to the challenge? Is that sort of thing, like a hashtag or some sort of?
Yeah, I feel terrible. I can't even remember what we had the conversation. I think I maybe had a glass of wine with.
So where will we? Was this after we spoke on the phone the other day, Anila? You had a meeting. Yeah. What? Where will we find out about that then? Where can we find out?
You can just connect on Facebook or on or Instagram. You can connect to the FNY Collective.
Fanny Collective. I love it.
Yeah.
Collection of fannies. Awesome.
And we are allowed to say that. It is a term of endearment in Scotland if anybody starts challenging us.
Amazing.
Jen, I'm just conscious of time and trying to keep it within an hour and a half. Do you want to end with just going round with your last question?
Yeah, I mean, I think, without even having to ask the question around well-being, it's already been covered. So that was amazing to hear, what mountain biking has done or does do for you all sort of mentally and, how it impacts you positively and whatnot. So that was amazing. I suppose my final question is really around what advice you would give women, for not only getting into mountain biking, but also perhaps, like I'm potentially thinking I've got some ideas, and like I said earlier, about linking mountain biking and well-being, so potentially working in the industry. What advice would you give to women to get into either just biking or even working in the industry? So I mean, you're all working in the industry in one different form or another. So just, I can see Katie's really pondering that. It's great. She's like, I mean, apart from the obvious, get coaching, Anna, right?
Yeah, that is like ultimate, isn't it? No, but to be fair, like getting a wee coaching session, it does wonders for your confidence. So then, if you can get a friend, you want to start riding with, whatever, and come along to a coaching session, then it just sets you up for sort of solid foundations to have sort of safe, fun riding. It's a no-brainer, really. And there's so many coaches across, well, I can speak for Scotland. I know there's a lot of coaches. So finding the right coach for you is really important, because at the end of the day, we're all, as coaches, we're individuals, with individual personalities and different styles. So if you can sort of scout out somebody you think would work for you and your personality and your style, then no brainer, coaching number one.
And I think what I know, because I've experienced it firsthand, is how empowering you are as a coach, Anna. You're not trying to keep your clients with you. You're all about, let's get you out onto the trails. Here's the skill set. Here, go out and practice, go out and ride. And apply those skills, as well as, the coaching. So it's like that fine balance, isn't it?
Yeah,
and obviously, yeah. And obviously going out on guided rides, Anila, I mean, Yeah. What other advice would any of you give? Jules, do you want to come in about riding, getting people into biking? What would you recommend?
I would say, once you start getting into it, remember that you're doing it because you think it's fun. I see a lot of people start riding and then they see other people that are sort of doing gnarlier things or riding faster or whatever, and they start to put loads of pressure on themselves, like they should be riding that harder trail or that gnarlier section, or they should be going faster, and then I watch them stop enjoying it. And they're still doing it, and they're battering themselves week in, week out, trying to achieve some level of what they perceive to be what mountain biking should be. And sometimes it doesn't seem like they're having fun anymore. And I think my best bit of advice would just be, remember it's fun and it's your own journey, and it can be whatever is the right thing for you. So if you don't like riding gnarly, scary trails, don't. Go and ride something flowy and fun and beautiful. Or if you really like challenging yourself and scaring yourself silly, go and ride the really gnarly trails. But remember it's fun. And
come back to the fun.
It's all about what's right for you, and you don't have to sort of tick anybody else's box. It's you're right.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
Such good advice, Jules. It's so
such good advice.
There's always so much you can improve on in mountain biking, and it is easy to get stuck down a rabbit hole going, I need to get better, I'm not as good as everybody else. And then you just start that narrative, which is kind of everywhere in your life anyway. So reconnecting with this is actually just fun, and I don't need to improve at this if I don't want to. I can just go and ride the same trail over and over again, and that's totally fine. Or
improving can be learning to ride round a corner better, or finding a little bit more flow in a section of trail that's not technical.
Go get that.
It doesn't always have to be about riding a gnarlier, harder, steeper, bigger feature. It can just be feeling better on your bike.
Yeah, definitely. What about from the racer's perspective? What do you think? Michaela, what are you thinking in terms of advice?
I think people getting into it, personally, I think making sure you're riding with people who you feel comfortable with. Like,
Yeah.
you have to go ride with certain people, or if you do ride with them and you're like, actually, I'm maybe not enjoying this kind of atmosphere, if you just make sure you put yourself in the situation that you feel best in, because then you're going to ride your best. And it kind of goes back to what Jules says, is because you're supposed to be having fun. And if you're forcing yourself into these scenarios where you're not having fun, then it's almost pointless, and you're not going to progress in that kind of scenario. And I think it is good to put yourself in scenarios of like going riding with people who are better than you, absolutely, because that is how you get better. You want to chase them and you want to catch up with them, and you can see your own progression, but always make sure you're having fun at the same time, just like what Jules says, and make sure you enjoy the company and you're kind of enjoying that atmosphere and of riding. And if it's like you feel pressured, then maybe don't ride with like that group, or and you can always go back to it. Don't feel like pressure to ride in the certain groups if you're not enjoying it.
Amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, that's great advice from everybody. Thank you so much. It's been so fascinating. Go on, Marg.
So have we had Anila's advice?
I was just going to say, ditto Jules, Michaela, Katy, Anna, celebrate your success and don't ever think that you're shit at riding.
What about you, Jen? What's your advice for people getting into the sport?
Yeah, I mean, I think the same. You know, I think it's finding the people that you enjoy riding with. But also trying to get that balance of just try everything, try racing, try coaching, try riding on your own trail days, just try everything to find those bits that you like. Like, I love them all. They've got a place, there's a place for them all. So I guess it's just, just trying everything until you find your jam, I suppose. Would be my thing. But yeah, for me, because it's such a social thing to me, it's finding the right people to ride with, but finding that joy of riding on your own as well, I think is really, really important. So trying it all.
I love the try. That's a cool thing. Just try.
Yeah.
Just
try it. Just do it.
Yeah,
just
totally.
do it.
And especially now, like after what we're coming up to almost a year of on and off lockdown, it's almost, there's so many more people who've picked up bikes, rediscovered cycling, bought bikes, whatever. And I think it's now for them, it must be the what next kind of feeling, the thoughts of like, I think I've rediscovered that I love cycling a bike. What can I do? How can I do it? So yeah, the answer is to just try lots of different things.
Yeah, definitely. Amazing. It's been really so good.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed this one. It's been really interesting hearing everyone's perspectives, especially on how to encourage women into the sport, and also like your own sort of subjective perspectives on your experience in the sport as well. So thank you so much for being a part of it, and thank you, Jen. You put so much time into this and effort into it, and we really appreciate it. You've done a brilliant job with everything.
Yeah,
it just
no, you guys are, it's just amazing to be able to, I knew straight away who I wanted to speak to about all of this stuff, about women in the sport, and, linking that to well-being, and, how important that is. And I just think, such an honor that you've all been willing to come and join me. So thank you so much. It's been amazing.
It's been great. Such an eclectic mix of people. It's actually quite rare to get so many kind of different perspectives of age and occupations and competitive levels. So it's been really great.
And I think the commonality, there's so much commonality as well, despite the range in experience. The commonality in terms of that, just wanting to have fun, just to connect, that freedom, and then the different tangents are related to the different roles that we have, but actually the commonality is just that, just have fun and enjoy that freedom out there. So amazing.
And everything that women enjoy about mountain biking is just it's all exactly the same as what men enjoy about mountain biking. The challenge is just trying to trying to show mountain biking to be a place that is welcoming to women and is a brilliant sport for everyone.
Absolutely.
So I hope this has added
Hear, hear.
to that conversation.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Amazing.
Cool. That's it. We're just doing this one.
Here's Christo.
That was amazing. Thanks, everyone.
Hello, welcome to the outro. I am sure you'll agree that was a really great conversation we had. Thanks again to everyone who took part and helped bring that together, especially Jen Price, who really put a lot of work in, and we couldn't have done it without her. Next week, we have Alyssa Podesta on the show. We weren't really telling you who was on the next week, but I don't really see why we shouldn't. So that's who's on, Alyssa Podesta. I've already had the conversation with her. It was great. You definitely want to stay tuned for that one. If you like this episode, if you like all of our episodes, please like, comment, and subscribe. Otherwise, thank you for watching. We'll see you next Thursday, 6 o'clock. Stay tuned.